So I want to talk a few moments about my outburst from last week, because I'm sure it wasn't comfortable for you, and it certainly wasn't comfortable for me. And I'm not sure where this will go or how this will come out. I actually stopped working in trainings in 2012 for this very reason. This question of dealing with anxiety and insecurity in training programs. Because in my own estimation, I failed over and over and over and over again in the training process to help people to come to terms with the question of their own insecurity. And went into private practice. And I can tell you, I became a trainer in 1993, and I've never had anything come close to that kind of an emotional outburst in all the years that I've done the work. Actually, I had a very small group in Bend, Oregon, of 14 students, with a practitioner who was my assistant trainer for 10 years. And we went to every extent with a group of people to help them find a measure of confidence in themselves. And in that group, one person, who, by the way, was the most insecure person in the group, is the only one that practiced. And I've watched year after year after year, training after training after training, for whatever reason, my inability to create the conditions where a person simply stops that message, knows it, recognizes it, and stops it. And it's not an easy thing to recognize and to deal with. The question of, I don't know anything. It's patently untrue. And I came back into the training world. I worked in New Zealand, and then this is the second training I've worked in since 2012. I'm starting a training in a week in Seattle I actually have completely hired a director of learning, someone who's going to be with the group every single segment to help them with their own self-assessment and self-evaluation process. As a part of the training, it's built into the training. It's not my forte. But the open-ended question, the question that one has with this material, I mean, we can go back all the way to 1949, and Moshe's the title of the book is a study of sex, a study of anxiety, sex, gravitation, and learning, body and mature behavior. Yeah. So he's dealing with the question with Freud. How do you deal with the question of anxiety and insecurity? And he says to the people that when you come to the place where you're not in the muscular habit of your past conditioning, you are in a state that for that moment is free from that. Yeah. What's amazing is how quickly that message arises to the forefront, and the degree to which we take that, we stand behind the message. So I don't know what else to say other than the fact that this has been the area in my professional practice that over the years, working in trainings has plagued me the most, really deeply. I mean, year after year after year, training after training after training, to come to terms. Now, I understand that many people come to the training, and what they do with this work doesn't necessarily take them back into being Feldenkrais practitioners. I completely understand that. Yeah. People will take this work and take it into your own profession, you'll take it into your own fields, whatever it is. But the very nature of this training, in my estimation, is to support maturation. And what does it mean to come to a place of maturation? Now, I can talk up here all day long, and it doesn't mean that any learning will take place. It can mean that the teaching's good, but it doesn't make a damn bit of difference if I'm smart. Yeah, these were things that for whatever reason, I have my own thing. I mean, in high school, I taught myself basketball, and I got me into a college. It gave me a college education. I had the good fortune of being able to ask questions for myself. Well, what does that mean? As you can see, these things that I bring to the class, they're fairly well founded, and I bring them to the class. I bring them to the class, hopefully with such a concrete way that the concrete way of you being able to experience yourself leads you to the sense of, wow, I have something. I have something in my hand. I am touching something. I'm experiencing something. I'm learning the process of how to ask the questions. What do I need to do within myself internally to ask the questions so that the refinement can take place? It's the learning how to be in the process of asking the questions that is the art of this work. A Feldenkrais practitioner, our main capacity is not all the fancy stuff, the lifting and the turning and the teaching awareness through movement. Our greatest capacity is to create the environment in which a person, in the way that we ask questions to them, that they turn their attention to themselves. And we ask those questions with our hands, we ask those questions with our voice, we ask those questions with our way of being with ourselves. Yeah? And I've tried, I came back into the work, working more and more and more specifically to take the details into a place where, yes, when I'm sitting, I understand the difference between falling and lifting myself away from the field of gravity. I can begin to imagine what canceling gravity means. I can begin to imagine what it is for me to find the support for myself, that I know the difference between when the work is heavy and when the work is close to me, comfortable. In other words, there are principles that we created by which you have the opportunity to say, wait. Is what my mind is producing true? Can I actually stop? Can I inhibit this particular place within myself that is the place of insecurity that I've had with me since I was born? The very nature of our conditioning breeds this level of insecurity within us. In order to be a part of the world, we have to fit in. In order to fit in, we have to get attention. In order to get attention, are we seen and appreciated for who we really are? Are we really? I mean, we have what we consider to be familial love, but I can tell you, even in my own case, my mother still doesn't know what I do. She's 92 years old, and she still would wish that I was a lawyer. It's really quite true, because she can understand what that is, right? This is a tricky business. We're dealing here in the business of how do people find the means to care for themselves? How do people find the means to improve the very quality of their life? How do people find the means to have physical integrity, recover from the wounds that they've had, of the physical injuries that they've had? How do people recover from the emotional wounds that they've experienced? How do they find dignity again? And how do they find the means within themselves to go forward in life with a kind of an ability to meet really profoundly difficult situations with a sense of, I'm okay. Yeah. I mean, if I could escape this moment, I would escape it in a heartbeat. Hang on a second.
Oh, sorry. I think can you hear me?
The volume's really quite low, I think.
Maybe put it right close to your face.
Just a background. The speakers are not over in that side of the room anymore. We've got a technical problem, so you need to hear the speakers up here. So
we can come closer for this moment. So just come closer for the moment, and I'm going to read you a little Rumi, and then we'll see something, and then we'll be done for the moment. But please.
Your outburst
created
an amazing opportunity for some really profound discussion. And actually, my heart.
Your heart, my heart. I'm sitting here in tears at this point. So,
yes. And I discussed it with a very dear friend, and many people in this room. And my opinion is my own.
Right.
I'm not speaking for anyone else.
Right.
But I at the moment when I heard the outburst, I was on the toilet, and I thought,
now that's not an image I had. I didn't think that's where this was going. Anyway, go ahead.
But really, in a sense, there was in the discussion I had with my friend, we talked about how that moment is like a seismic shift in the consciousness of the room, and that that there has to be a potential in every human being to express frustration and anger, because if we can't find a place to do that effectively, to express anger. And actually I felt, while you did draw a couple of thumpings, and that is what anger is, that the anger itself has been built over many, many years, which so that kind of anger, which is so pinpointed, does not come out lightly or easily. And there has to be a place in this world for that to happen in a group like this. Otherwise, there is no hope.
I agree. Look, over the week, I want to compliment you guys. Your work this last week was extraordinary. I look around the room, and anybody who's a practitioner who knows anything about the way that people, what attention and what quiet and what kindness and what curiosity looks like. The room, were you aware of how quiet it was every time you guys practiced? Yeah? Because normally in a room where people aren't in that level of practice, what's the sound level? What are the questions? What are the someone's telling the other people, no, that's not what they did, and it becomes a cacophony. There's no real place to listen. And every person in the room sat within themselves and found a kind of support that for the most part, across the Feldenkrais world, it's absolutely rare. And I saw something in every one of you that was like, wow, this is a quality, yeah? That's really, truly extraordinary. It seems like I was signaling, I wasn't, that I was picking on you. I wasn't. Please, my apologies, profound apologies, because it wasn't directed at you. It appears that way, but it wasn't directed at you. I've watched you work. Your work is very nice. Really, the way that you're working with people and attending to people and caring for yourself and finding support within yourself. And there's no reason that it could have been anybody in the room. It could have been me in my own mind that came up with that. But anyway, I don't know what else to say, really.
Again, I'm only speaking personally, but what I heard, the ideas that you were talking about, which is when that voice comes that says, I don't know anything, I don't remember anything.
Right.
And we have the knowledge, we have the ability to pause, take a breath and say to ourselves, I do know something. I know this, I learned this. And I've known that the whole time.
Right.
But what happened on Friday made me know it in a different place, because the emotion was clear and it was simple and it got my attention, and the knowledge ceased to be a thing that was happening in my head that I could explain to another person, and it became something I felt in my body. And I spent this weekend practicing that, because I spent the weekend being grilled and assessed on skills and examined in a pass or fail situation. And I had ample opportunity to have that voice come into my head saying, I don't know what 4 times 12 is. I can't remember what the acronym stands for. I don't know what to do. And I think it was partly because of Friday that partly because of the work I've done over the last 2 years, but it consolidated it for me. I had to find in myself that place where I said to the voice, I'm hearing the voice, but it's just background music.
Right.
I'm not going to listen to it.
Right.
I am going to take a breath. I am going to notice that I'm folding myself and that my shoulder blades are up by my ears and that I don't need to stand this way. I can stop for a minute. And then I suddenly knew what 4 times 12 was. And I want to thank you, because that was a difficult weekend for me, and I came away from it elated because I did well, thanks to that ability to stop and listen to what my body was telling me, instead of listening to that voice that says, I don't remember, I don't know anything.
I'm sitting here, the whole question of our attention, it has to have this kind of, we have to know this exact thing. We have to know it. It has to be something that I know when I'm in my head and my mind is not using work helpful me, to suspend that long enough that I can become curious. And that I know from curiosity how to ask questions of myself. I have to know that. That is at the very foundation of this work. You couldn't ask for a more central foundational point to this work. Yeah. If you're going to go to bedrock and you were going to put the very first stone down to build the foundation of your Feldenkraris practice, that's the foundation. That very ability to know the difference between your historic way of using your conditioning, your historic way of using your mind, and your ability to ask questions. And to care for yourself. You know? To care for yourself, this beautiful beings that we are. Yeah. With the kind of attention that in many cases only we can give it to ourselves. Yeah. Even if we fail. Yeah. I had all weekend, I have to be with myself and care for myself. Because I wasn't happy with myself. No. I'm still not. But I know how to be with myself, reflect, and to care for myself. And I know how to enter into the most painful of situations. And I know that I'll survive it. Yeah. Now, that to me is the process by which we take a Japanese katana, a Japanese blade, the old blades. They took really poor ore off of a beach, and they heated the ore, and they began to pound it, and they folded it and heated it, and pounded it and folded it and heated and pounded it and folded it tens of thousands of times to temper the sword, to give it elasticity, to give it a keen edge, to give it to make it unbreakable, right? It's not easy to recognize that the process of making ourselves keen with clear specificity requires this kind of heating and folding and these incidents. And we have to know that we can survive the worst fear, the most emotional pain, that there's something within us that's greater than all that. And from within that, to be able to be with it in such a way that they eventually can drain away, but we come out of it a little bit more mature, a little bit more capable, a little bit more resourceful, a little bit more, much more wisdom in our ability to meet the moment, which I again believe is the outcome of this work. Yeah.
I just wanted to say a deep thank you, because for me it was that calling to remind myself to be my greatest self.
Yeah.
And self-care is the bottom line for being our greatest selves.
Right.
And because it came so strongly, it's something I've practiced and practiced and practiced, but it was like, I forgot again. And I'm less likely to forget now because it went deeper. And I was just so grateful for that. It was, for me, one of the best things that happened last week.
Okay, well, I'm sure that some of you are still questioning and in emotional pain, and hopefully we'll be able to do something with this. This is the difference to me between caring for our conditioning and caring for ourselves. I don't know how words, I mean, I can say these things, and they're words, aren't they? They're really, what does it mean, caring for my conditioning? It means the way that I acquired my sense of knowing myself, which in its very nature was in order to succeed, I had to drive myself and to be hard on myself and to doubt myself in order to succeed. But it's not caring for myself. Yeah. Please.
I thought a lot about it over the weekend. And as I came to Earth, there was already conditioning. I had this dream as a kid. Everything is smooth, everything gets rough, and then I fall a lot. And then I was awake and was crying really badly. And this dream, I believe that's my birth. Because when we came out, there used to be to take us on our feet to get it up, which makes you falling. And I had this dream in every pregnancy when I was lying down and was somehow on the neck. I had a pillow or something during the day. And then it disappeared. And I think we accomplish fear and anxiety from the birth on, and it's at on.
I agree.
To our life.
I agree.
And I strongly believe that you can't lose it at once in 4 days.
I agree with that as well.
It has to be scraped up bit by bit, because we came to Australia and we lost every routine. And my husband gets really, got anxiety and everything. I could stay at home for the first week and go out slowly, but he had to work and he didn't cope. And after, I think, 3 or 4 months, he realized when we are to someone who sends people overseas, yeah, that happens to everybody who goes out of in another country. And I think then he came back with his normal life. So he was diagnosed with something and should have taken pills, whatever. And I was strongly against it, and he didn't take it, and I was glad he didn't. And I think, yeah, that outbreak of you just came, I know it. First, I didn't realize what's going on. First, I thought, oh, that maybe that's a show or something. I couldn't feel any anger. But then with time, I realized, okay, it's real. And I think that's something which is in everybody differently. That reminds me of times with my father. He yelled a lot with me. And I think that's, how can I say it? I thought you are really good, and I learned so much. But then I thought, why would I come to a course and get yelled of it when I'm an adult? And I was thinking over the weekend if I come today or not. Then I decided, okay, I come because you are so good and I can learn so much of you. But still, that's somehow, I know, that's still in me. That reminding me of fear or anxiety.
Yeah, I understand.
That I learned such a lot from you, and I'm really grateful for that. But I had a lot of anxiety and fear over the weekend because of that outburst. And,
sure, I understand.
And so I appreciate your apology very much. But unlike other people that had, for whom it was a positive experience, it wasn't a positive experience for me.
Look, we all have the ways that we protect ourselves from any further pain, and all of us have a history that's whatever, and whatever happens in the environment, in some way it will arouse something within us. So I don't know. I don't know what to say any further.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you talking about this, because I think we all thought about it over the weekend. I just have one question really that goes a bit away from you to us, or you know, which is, I mean, for me, I suppose I felt it was obviously something that came from you, right? And you've just expressed that, you know, over the years you've tried to, I think you've got, you've deepened an anxiety in a way because you've so much wanted to clarify this particular capacity to learn from Feldenkrais, which I think is a great gift to us that you've sought to do that clarifying. And I think it is a great aim and a kind of a great understanding about what Feldenkrais is. But my question or my thought is that, in a sense, your frustration, I suppose, as it was expressed on Friday, was that we might not be getting that. And I guess for us to think about as Feldenkrais practitioners into the future is, how do you hold in yourself the possibility that other people won't get Feldenkrais, that they will come along to your lessons for 10 years and, you know, not express an aha moment to you at any point, or sleep through an FI, or, you know, all the things that people talk about that happen, or in your experience, that students will come to course after course and not want to be practitioners afterwards. And
it's not that they don't, I don't mind them not wanting to be practitioners. I don't want the anxiety that they maintain to keep them from being the person that they can be.
yeah. Well, I guess I would say in response to that, and this will come as no surprise to you, that, you know, just as we did that exercise where we stood up and we felt with our breath the point at which it was held because we went back into countering gravity, and when it didn't, is that actually it's a really good thing to know when you have anxiety.
Yeah.
Because then that gives you the opportunity to know when you don't have anxiety. So
right.
There's, for many people, they don't get to the point where they ever know that what's roiling around in their system is anxiety. It's just roiling around in their system, and it's anger, or it's your fault, or it's, you know, whatever. So I think knowing, you know, so recognizing your anxiety is actually always an important quality as well.
Right.
And sometimes it is hard to get beyond that. But yeah, so sorry, my question is, how do we hold more lightly and therefore care for ourselves when it's really up to, it is ultimately up to another person what they get from
Right.
the practice?
Right. I can say that the only measure that I have for my own classes and for my clients is whether they can say, has the quality of my life improved? And what does it mean to have the quality of my life improve? It means that I'm a little happier, I'm a little more, I can be more calm, I can be with myself, I can handle difficulties a little bit more easily. Maybe I move with a little bit more grace and ease, and I don't have the same difficulties so much with this situation or that situation. Eventually, my own maturation means that I'm not as emotionally involved, or I excel because I'm vitally interested rather than because I have to. Because rather than being driven by achievement. Simple things, really, really simple things, but massively important things when it comes to what I believe to be as human beings, our most human humanness.
I agree that they're all. I guess I'm asking about if you are practicing, and I mean, maybe people feel those things for a second a day. How do you care for yourself so that you don't become disheartened, at the very least, anxious and angry at the worst, that this is not happening for other people? Because it's in the end, it's their responsibility. I think you spoke in that video talk we all watched, or maybe it was here, I can't remember, about, having somebody come to you and you didn't want to know their story, because, you want to work with them, but you don't have to own you don't have to take on their story.
Right.
So, at a certain point you have to offer what you can offer, and then you have to let the other person take it up or not. Do you agree with that?
To a point. Yeah, to a point. I have a few things in my life that are important to me, and the legacy of this work is important to me.
Yeah.
It's very important to me. I believe that Moshe created a significant impact in my life, a very personal impact. And I personally believe that this work has within it all of the characteristics of any of the major practices in the world. And I believe that the practitioners that we have are going to, as we come into the world, from our own growth and our own maturation, which means the way that we can be with ourselves, we'll invite people into the kinds of questions that we ask, and we help people ask these questions. And I just wish the most for each of the practitioners people that I work with. Yeah. And I hate to see people stop themselves in ways that are very difficult to do. It's very difficult you could sit for years in meditation, become a very skilled meditator, and still never catch the way your mind creates these thoughts. You can come to a particular qualities of, you could go to retreats, come to a place of being quiet with yourself, step back into the world, and still maintain your profoundly, deeply grooved, deeply internalized thoughts about yourself. Yeah. In other words, these practices don't necessarily lead to this very concrete ability to change our behavior. Yeah. To actually look at our behavior and find for ourselves what we most want for ourselves. Yeah. And there's a Sufi poem somewhere where it says you must ask for what you really want. And I can't refer to the poem right now, but and so when you ask the question, well, what do I most want for myself? And the people that come to you, you ask them, so if you have a half hour to live, what do you most want for yourself? What do you most want for yourself? How would you most like to be in this last half hour? Yeah. Every client I ask that, it's either I would like to be serene, I'd like to be tranquil, or I would like to be with the people that I love. Yeah. And it goes across the board. Except for the one woman who said, well, I'd like to be climbing Mount Everest. which I can understand with her and her way of being in life. It's completely about what you can do. Huh? Well, anyway, it's just these things. And so, for people to just even to be in this question and to ask the question in a way that, like, how would I most like to be? How would I most like? I'm learning this work. How would I most like to be? How would I like to go about this work as I'm practicing it? Yes, the work is comprehensive. It's complex. But for the most part, I mean, if I was going to go to take a piano lesson, I know that I'm not going to play Chopin when I go to the lesson. I'm not going to put an undue expectation on myself. If I learn how to place my hands on the scales and I can play a little and I leave and I'm told to practice that, it's not going to make me anxious that I'm not going to be able to play. And if I'm still curious about it, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to let my curiosity be there as long as it's going to be there, and I can watch to see. At this point in time, as an adult, I'm not driving myself to be the best piano player. I'm doing it because I'm curious about, well, I want to play. It's enjoyable. I don't know why this work engenders such profound insecurity in people. I really don't. It engenders profound insecurity in most of the people.
I finished in July this year, and I'm sad that I missed last week because I've been watching you on YouTube, and I thought I definitely have to make a point to come. But watching you on, working with people, it makes me very insecure. It makes me feel very inadequate because the way you work, I can see the depths in it, and I can't see at the moment how I could achieve that. So,
and that's the point. That's the profound point. Look, in 1980, I sat in the room with Moshe Feldenkrais. And had I sat there in the room with Moshe Feldenkrais, and if I would have sat there and said, look what he can do. Look what he can produce. I can go through all of his teaching. I can go through his Alexandrian I lessons. I can go through all of his IFF lessons, and I can look to see there are lessons that he gives where I cannot follow what he's doing. And I can sit there and go, wow, I'll never do what he does. The very nature of being skilled creates the conditions by which anybody can do exactly what you just mentioned. But what was it that you saw in me that, see, you can't see what you see in me if it's not within yourself. You can't see, you can't perceive something unless you're perceiving it from yourself. Now, Here's what's difficult. That reflection has to turn back to yourself and say, how will I develop what I've seen in from within myself? You can't be me. No one here can be me. I can never be Feldenkrais. I can never be anyone else other than me. I can only be in my own questions, and the question had to come back to me. How will I discover what's possible within me? And every single thought of insecurity was, I'm going along, what would Moshe do? I don't know what he would do. What can I find in this moment that will increase my ability to interact with the person I'm with? I have to keep coming back to the question, what is within me? And it's the very nature of this process, can breed this insecurity. Please, Kevin.
All I was going to say was, from a personal perspective, as much as what everybody else might have taken on board themselves, exactly to your last point, sitting straight opposite you, that only came from a place of passion.
That's true.
And it came out of a place of passion for us, not for yourself.
Right.
And it was only for the keystone of the most fundamental part of this work.
Yeah.
And if you want to go and get if it's the one thing to go and get, this is it.
Right.
And I think, however people may choose to go and convey a point, that was the point that was conveyed.
Yeah.
In probably the most passionate way, I guess. You're gonna be able to go and
I don't know that I can go. I don't know that I can go to another level of passion on that one.
Well, that was there might have been obviously a bit of anger thrown in there on top, but it was. All I'm saying is I believe it certainly came from a good place, and it came for the direction of us.
Okay.
And for our benefit.
Okay. Well, I hope that I haven't wounded you too significantly, and I hope I've provided some. And I'm willing to, if as a group you would think that I should leave, I would be willing to leave. I'm serious. That I'll walk out and you say, no, it's not. We're not safe. This is not a place for you to be. Wait. I want you to know that, you have skilled people in here that could easily step in and take on and provide training for you. So I don't want to. I'm really willing to be here with us in this level of discussion, because I consider this to be the most essential part of the training process, which is how do we mature ourselves into these in the area of ourself that I most don't want to see about myself. Yeah, Moshe, he gives a talk on inferiority. Now, Moshe, at the age of 11, lost his voice. Why did he lose his voice? Because he was hiding in basements. There were 3 armies of occupation, or 4, in the town that he was raised in. He saw pogroms. He saw his father kill a Cossack. He saw things that no 11, 12, 13, or 14-year-old child should ever see. And for some strange reason, he lost his voice. And everything that they did, every single thing that they did to help him with his voice, the smelling the things and putting his head over this and putting his head in that and giving him this and giving him that, nothing helped him with his voice. And so Moshe says, so what did I do? I looked into the areas of my life where I was most inadequate. It's very important. The language that he used is very specific. I looked into the areas of my life where I was most inadequate. And I took that of my life that I could do perfectly. So imagine 11 years old and being in this place where I can imagine what it is that I have within myself that whether I want it or not, I can absolutely do it perfectly. And I'm going to look into the areas of my life where I am most inadequate. And he said, I took that which I could do perfectly and I began to bring that quality into the other parts of my life. Yeah. Now, that I can do anything, everything to defend myself, to keep myself in my self-protective, defensive place. And I must, because at the point in time that I developed these protections, they were necessary at that point in my life. Every habit that's formed is useful at the moment it's formed. Yeah? Every sense of inadequacy, every sense of protection, every sense of self-preservation that we form at whatever age in our life is crucial for us at that moment, because we don't have the resources to meet it. Right? And so the only thing we can do is go into self-preservation. It's the only viable means biologically for us. And it's not until that moment that we have the resources that we can finally see ourselves in a place that's no longer that place. That place, it's not released. We're just not in it. We're just not in it. And that history becomes part of a tapestry that it becomes our wisdom. Our ability to meet the world with wisdom and with choice and making clear distinctions, and rather than having our life be a life of reaction. Yeah, that's the maturational process. Yeah. Now, I don't believe that that's what people think that they come to this work for. Yeah. I don't think that they understand that the neurology, the very nature, that when you lie on the floor and you're asked to make a distinction and you utilize some aspect of yourself that has the capacity to make a distinction, that in that moment, in order for you to make those distinctions, you've set aside your entire history. That heritage, that way in which you've emotionally protected yourself, because you're not in it. And when you get up from that, there's oftentimes a profound sense of freedom or sense of difference. And we haven't known how to give value to that change. Right? It oftentimes disappears by the time we get over to the table and get into a conversation with someone, and our history reasserts itself because that's what's familiar and safe for us. Right? And we don't know how to value what it is that place within ourselves that for that moment we're not self-protected. We're not. We're open. We're not in the same sense of self. We're not in the same time and space continuum. We're not even in the same dimension. We're not in the same felt toned sense. Yeah. We have a whole series of possibilities that begin to open. And as soon as we go back to the known self-image, those possibilities again shrink back to producing what we know how to produce. It's such a moment in which the genius of us, the profound capacity for us to have unlimited potential outcomes, is emergent. And of course, then it's so easy to shrink back into what is known and is considered safe by ourselves from the point of view at the time we needed it. Yeah, it was absolutely crucial for us. And the system, and as human beings, we must defend ourselves from any perturbation or pain. Yeah, unless I can know that I can eventually be with the pain in such a way that I know it'll dissolve and it's going to lead me somewhere. It's going to be useful for me. But almost for the most part, it's not. Otherwise, I'm going to stay in self-preservation. Yeah. Now, this is nobody. I don't think people understand that when they enter into this work, the hidden message of the work is mature behavior. Yeah. Right? Awareness through movement. Awareness. Awareness doesn't mean right or wrong. Awareness means knowing what you're doing. Being able, and awareness is profoundly specific. Profoundly specific. That's why I point you to the smallest point on the fourth metatarsal so that you understand the more clarity that you have in the way that you find support. Yeah? The more clear that that is for you, the more that you can attend to the smallest detail and find the elements and the refinement in that support, the more capacity you're going to have to understand the specificity of awareness so that you won't be hidden in generalities. The generalities that your mind continues to produce because you needed them at some point in time, that no longer serve you now. Really don't serve. They don't serve you for the person you are now. And they interfere with the quality of your life. It's a malaise. It's Maya. It's all the terms that you find in all the other traditions. Yeah. So I think we need to sort of end this for the time being. This is long enough, and maybe we would come and go a little bit. I want to read Rumi, and then I want to play Bob Newhart. So, and Bob Newhart was an American comedian, and he has a little bit that I have to say may help us in ourselves. So this is Rumi. I think I can play Rumi for a moment. This is so most of us can agree that Rumi's pretty high up in the level of the mystical poets for helping us dealing with the human potential. I mean, I know many of you don't know Rumi, but maybe you do. But here's what Rumi says on this issue. He says, today, like every other day, I might make it through this, we wake up empty and frightened. Don't open the door to the study and begin reading. Huh? In other words, every day we wake up knowing ourselves, but don't open the door and study the way that you've known yourself to be all your life. Don't go there for the moment. This way that we've identified ourselves, that was necessary for us, but don't go there for a moment. He says, inhibit it. He says, don't open the door to the study and begin reading. Take down a musical instrument and let the beauty we love be what we do. Two paradigms, isn't it? Right there. Let the beauty we love be what we do. Open the door to the study and maintain the way we've most known ourselves. We're right here on this world of these paradigms. Yeah. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. Hundreds, thousands. We can go within 20 miles of here, and I can guarantee you we'll find 200 different traditions that are preaching the same gospel. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing. Beyond duality. And what does Moshe talk about? He says, if you have only one way of doing something, it's compulsion. If you only have two ways of doing something, it's primitive choice. Yes and no, right and wrong, good and bad. He always talks about having a third way of seeing. Not seeing this, not that, not this, not that, but to be in the place of options. Yeah. The potent posture is the freedom to move without hesitation in any direction. Where must you be within yourself if you're going to be capable of moving without hesitation? You can't be in compulsion. You can't be in right and wrong. You be in the place from which some spontaneous activity can begin. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing, right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Let's meet in this place that's not in right and wrong and good and bad and all these other things. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. This work, when I'm giving lessons, I don't have images. I don't know where the lesson is going. I'm listening to the moment. And I continue to work on my ability to listen. Yeah? I'm not trying to create outcomes. Outcomes arrive. And they arrive in a lesson that's performed well, in my estimation, it's a lesson in which I have learned as much as the person. A lesson is a lesson when both people come to a place they've never been to before. I can tell you, I've never been to this place before in a training. I can absolutely assure you that I've never been in this way in my family, with my children, in a training. This is such a rare occurrence in my life. Only a few times have I ever had this level of something come out of me like this, some spontaneously erupt. Yeah. So, ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. This is very important. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. You have to be in a place where you can listen. You can't listen if you're in the place that's known. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you, oh, there's the line. You must ask for what you really want. What is it you really want? What is it that you want in this moment? When you're working and the anxiety arises, what is it that you most want? The question, the doubt, all these things. What is it that you most want for yourself? The greatest possible gift and moment that you can have for yourself. What is it that you most really want? Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across between these paradigms. Going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. That door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. We have to know what it is to live in our history. And we also have to know what it is to care for ourselves. We have to be able to go back and forth across these door sills. Okay? All right. I'm getting bored with myself or tired of myself at this moment. But I would like